Let's not lie to ourselves. Work stress isn't just stress. It's waking up with a knot in your chest, staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., feeling like the weight of an entire collapsing world is sitting on your ribcage. It's the fear of failing, the emails that never stop, the boss who doesn't notice, the deadlines that pile up like tombstones. We pretend we're fine, but we're not. We are quietly burning alive in an office chair. The Stoics understood this feeling better than we think. Not office politics, maybe, but the war inside your own head, the suffocating anxiety, the anger, the exhaustion. They lived it. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome. Imagine running an empire and still writing in your private journal that you're barely keeping it together. Epictetus, a man born a slave, reminding himself every day that other people's actions were not his to control. Seneca, trying to manage the chaos of politics while staying true to his reason. They were all surrounded by pressure, betrayal, and noise. And yet, they stayed calm enough to write words that still keep us sane 2,000 years later. Here's the thing. Work stress isn't just a modern problem. It's just another battlefield. And what the Stoics left us are weapons, mental weapons, that actually work. Today, we're going to sharpen them one by one and turn you from someone who gets crushed by stress into someone who stands unshaken in the middle of the storm. 1. Control and the art of letting go. Epictetus said it bluntly. Some things are up to us and some things are not. That single sentence could save you from years of misery if you actually practiced it, but that's the catch. Practicing it means changing the way you think when your entire nervous system is screaming at you to panic. Picture yourself sitting in a meeting when the boss announces a surprise audit. Your stomach drops. Your mind starts racing through worst-case scenarios. What if we miss a compliance deadline? What if this ruins the quarter? What if this ruins me? Your body is reacting as if a lion just walked into the room, fight or flight mode, fully engaged. And here's where the Stoic discipline begins. Pause. Ask yourself, what is under my control right now? Can I stop the audit from happening? No. Can I control how my boss reacts? No. Can I control how I prepare, what I communicate to my team, and how clearly I think in the next 10 minutes? Yes. Then that's where all your energy goes. Marcus Aurelius, writing late at night after another exhausting day of running an empire, told himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He was surrounded by wars, betrayals, and political chaos. But he trained himself to retreat into his own reasoned mind, the only place he could find real freedom. We make work stress worse by fighting the wrong battles. We fight against reality itself, wishing the audit wouldn't happen, wishing the boss wasn't angry, wishing we could erase the email that already got sent. The Stoics call this the second arrow, the unnecessary suffering we add on top of the first blow. The first arrow, the event itself, might sting, but the second arrow is self-inflicted, and we can stop shooting it. Train yourself to notice when your thoughts are spinning about something outside your control. Write it down. Draw a line through it. Then act where you do have power. This is not passive resignation. This is the most active, disciplined response you can have. Instead of screaming at the storm, you grab the wheel and steer your ship. And over time, something remarkable happens. You stop being jerked around by every external event. You stop being a puppet for every email, every Slack ping, every crisis. You become someone who can stand in the middle of the storm and remain still. 2. Voluntary discomfort, building anti-fragility. Seneca, one of the sharpest Stoic minds, gave a piece of advice that sounds strange in our comfort-obsessed age. Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself all the while, "Is this the condition that I feared?" This wasn't a poetic exercise. It wasn't about asceticism for its own sake, or about proving how tough he was. It was training. a deliberate way to strip away illusions and build a kind of strength most people never touch. Here's the thing, so much of our stress at work and in life isn't about what's actually happening. It's about fear. Fear of losing what we already have. Fear that our income will vanish, our apartment will be taken away, our standard of living will collapse. Fear that we'll fall behind socially if we don't eat at the right places, wear the right brands, or live in the right neighborhood. But the only reason that fear bites so hard is that we've never truly tested life without those comforts. We treat comfort as oxygen, something we literally can't live without. Seneca's voluntary discomfort was like a vaccine. By choosing to live simply for a few days, by dressing in rough clothes or eating plain food, he proved to himself that comfort is not survival, luxury is not necessity. When you step into voluntary discomfort, you shatter the illusion that your identity is tied to your possessions or paycheck. You realize that the terrible conditions you've built up in your head aren't actually terrible. You can survive without the latte, without the car, without the apartment upgrade, without the streaming subscription. In fact, sometimes you feel lighter without them. Modern psychology has its own term for this, stress inoculation. Just like exposing yourself to a small amount of a virus makes your body stronger against it, exposing yourself to small doses of discomfort strengthens your resilience. Controlled stress builds capacity. The beauty of this practice is that you don't have to move to a cabin in the woods or give away all your belongings to try it. You can build it into daily life in ways that are uncomfortable but not destructive. Skip your usual indulgence for a week. Take a cold shower instead of a hot one. Sleep on the floor with just a blanket. Try fasting until dinner one day. Walk to work instead of driving. Delete social media for a week. Each act on its own seems trivial, but together they form a pattern of training. Every time you do something uncomfortable on purpose, you prove to yourself that comfort is optional. You loosen fear's grip. Let's be clear, this isn't about self-punishment. Stoicism doesn't tell you to hate pleasure or despise wealth. Seneca himself was wealthy, and Marcus Aurelius was literally an emperor. The point is not that comfort is evil. The point is that comfort is dangerous if you can't live without it. If luxury owns you, then fear owns you. Here's a modern example. Think about the person who panics if they forget their phone at home. The anxiety isn't because they can't survive one day without checking email or scrolling Instagram. It's because they've never tried. They've never proven to themselves that they'll be fine without it. A single day of voluntary disconnection would shatter that panic. And this scales up. When a real setback hits, a demotion, a missed promotion, a sudden layoff, most people crumble because they've never practiced going without. But if you've already rehearsed simplicity, the shock doesn't cut as deep. You've already lived on less. You've already endured minor discomforts. You've already stripped away the illusion that you're fragile. That's the key word here, fragility. The fragile person needs everything to stay intact. The job, the salary, the apartment, the routines. If one piece is removed, they fall apart. But the anti-fragile person grows stronger with stress. They train under hardship. They use discomfort as fuel. Voluntary discomfort is how you move from fragility to anti-fragility. It's a way of saying, I can live without this, and I will be fine. And once you've proved that to yourself, the fear of loss loses its teeth. When Seneca asked, "Is this the condition that I feared?" he wasn't being rhetorical. He was demonstrating a mindset. Fear whispers that poverty, failure, or loss will destroy you. But once you step into those conditions voluntarily, even just a small taste of them, you realize the truth. You are tougher, freer, and more resourceful than fear wants you to believe. So try it. Strip away some luxury for a day or a week. Eat plain food, wear simple clothes, cancel a subscription, walk instead of drive. Test yourself in little ways, and when the real storms come, and they will, you won't just endure them. You'll meet them with the calm confidence of someone who has trained for exactly this moment. That's the essence of voluntary discomfort. That's how you build anti-fragility. 3. The Premeditation of Adversity. Marcus Aurelius had a morning ritual that at first glance sounds bleak. He wrote, "Today you will meet with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness." Most people read that line and think, that's depressing. Who wants to start the day expecting the worst? But here's the thing. Marcus wasn't being negative. He was being realistic. And in that realism was his strength. What Marcus understood is that most of our stress doesn't come from events themselves, but from the surprise of those events. Think about the last time your day went sideways. A rude email ruins your mood before you've even had coffee. A last-minute meeting pops onto your calendar and blows up your afternoon plans. Your boss throws out unexpected criticism and suddenly you're spiraling. None of those things by themselves are unbearable. What makes them stressful is that they caught you off guard. The Stoics developed a tool for this. Premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Instead of waking up and hoping the day will be easy, you wake up expecting it to be hard. Not because you're pessimistic, but because you want to be ready. Here's how it works in practice. Before you leave the house, pause for 30 seconds and run through the worst 5 things that could happen today. The meeting might run long, the project might hit delays, the client might complain, your coworker might test your patience, your commute might take twice as long. If you picture these things before they happen, then when one of them actually does, it feels less like an ambush. You saw it coming. And here's the interesting flip side. If none of those bad things happen, you get to be pleasantly surprised. Either way, you win. What this practice does over time is build a kind of emotional armor. Instead of reacting to the world, you anticipate it. You plan for adversity instead of pretending it won't show up. You're no longer thrown off balance by every inconvenience because you've rehearsed for it mentally. It's not hard to see how useful this is in the modern workplace. Deadlines slip, clients push back, team members quit, leadership changes direction. Most people waste huge amounts of energy wishing things were different. The Stoic doesn't. The Stoic says, "I knew this was coming in some form. Now let's deal with it." And there's another benefit. This practice forces you to think flexibly. If you assume nothing will go wrong, you won't build backups or contingencies. But if you start the day imagining delays, resistance, or criticism, you naturally prepare for them. You leave extra time, you sketch out a plan B, you double-check your assumptions. Ironically, by picturing problems, you make yourself more effective at preventing them. Over time, this mindset sets you apart. You become the person who stays calm in a crisis. While everyone else is rattled because their expectations were shattered, you keep your cool because you built your expectations on reality. People notice, they trust you more, they lean on you when things get rough. Now, there's a fine line here. This isn't about catastrophizing or wallowing in negativity. The Stoics weren't doom and gloom prophets. They enjoyed life. They were grateful for blessings, but they also believed gratitude is stronger when paired with realism. Hoping for smooth sailing every day is a recipe for frustration. Expecting storms and preparing for them is how you develop peace of mind. So tomorrow morning, try it. Before you open your laptop, before you check your phone, pause and run through the likely obstacles. Someone will be late. Someone will misunderstand. Something will break. Tell yourself this is normal, not catastrophic. Then when it happens, you nod and move forward. That's not pessimism. That's resilience. That's premeditation of adversity. 4. Negative visualization, losing it all in your mind. The Stoics weren't content with just preparing for difficult days. They went further with something even bolder: negative visualization. At first, the name itself sounds gloomy, like sitting around picturing disasters. But that's not the point. The goal wasn't to wallow in dread. It was to strengthen gratitude and weaken fear. Here's the practice. Imagine losing the things you value most: your job, your health, your possessions. even the people you love. You don't do this to torment yourself. You do it to remind yourself that everything is temporary, and to make peace with that truth instead of hiding from it. Think about your job. Imagine walking in tomorrow and finding out it's gone. The paycheck is gone. The title is gone. The stability you thought you had is gone. How would you survive? How would you adapt? What would your next step be? Play the scenario out in your mind until it feels real. Then remind yourself, this could happen. And if it does, you'll still exist. You'll still think. You'll still act. You'll still rebuild. Seneca put it bluntly. He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand. When you imagine the worst and make peace with it, the fear loses its sting. Suddenly, every lesser outcome becomes tolerable. If you've already rehearsed losing it all, then losing a little doesn't scare you. This practice also sharpens your appreciation for what you already have. Picture your apartment vanishing, the roof, the walls, the bed. Then open your eyes and look around at the fact that you do have those things today. Or imagine your partner, your child, your closest friend gone from your life. And then let the reality hit that they're still here, alive, breathing, next to you. Gratitude becomes sharper when you see what life would feel like without. Modern psychology has studied similar effects. People who regularly practice mental subtraction, imagining life without something they currently enjoy, report higher levels of gratitude and satisfaction. Why? Because the brain gets used to things and takes them for granted. Visualization interrupts that autopilot and forces you to notice the value of what's in front of you. There's also a deeper toughness that comes with this exercise. Most people go through life hoping nothing bad happens, and when it inevitably does, they're blindsided. The Stoic, on the other hand, has already rehearsed the loss. They've walked through the fire in their mind. When reality hits, it doesn't feel like an unthinkable nightmare. It feels like something they've already trained for. Now, it's worth saying, this isn't about being morbid or obsessed with death and loss. The Stoics weren't pessimists. They loved life. They enjoyed good wine, good company, and moments of joy. But they also understood that ignoring the possibility of loss doesn't protect you. It makes you fragile. Facing loss directly is what gives you strength. Here's how you can practice it today. Take 5 minutes before bed and imagine losing something you rely on. Your phone breaks, your car is stolen, your company shuts down, your health takes a hit. Don't just picture the moment of loss. Picture how you'd respond. What would you do next? How would you adapt? If that feels too heavy, start smaller. Imagine losing a simple daily convenience, like your morning coffee or your hot shower. Then live a day without it. Notice how quickly you adjust. That adjustment, multiplied across bigger losses, is resilience. The Stoics believe that when you make peace with the worst, you can finally live freely. You stop clinging so tightly to what you have. You stop living in constant fear of loss. And you begin to see each day as a gift, not a guarantee. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by the thought of losing something, your job, your health, your security, try this. Close your eyes, imagine it gone, and then picture yourself still standing, still breathing, still capable, because that's the truth. You are stronger than loss wants you to believe. That's negative visualization, not depression, not doom, just the ultimate antidote to fear and the sharpest tool for gratitude. 5. The Dichotomy of Response. Viktor Frankl, who endured the unimaginable horrors of Auschwitz, left us with one of the most powerful lines in modern philosophy. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That sentence could have been lifted straight out of a Stoic's notebook. It captures the beating heart of Stoicism, the idea that while we cannot control what happens to us, we can always control how we respond. Let's be blunt. You can't stop stress from appearing. The email will arrive, the criticism will sting, the unexpected expense will show up. Life will always supply you with triggers, but you can stop those triggers from owning you. The key lies in that small gap between stimulus and response, the pause where choice lives. Picture this. Your boss sends a blunt, harsh message that makes your blood boil. Most people fire back instantly, defending themselves or venting their frustration. That's reaction, not response. The Stoic approach is different. Pause, breathe, step into that space between stimulus and response. Ask, what would my best self do right now? Sometimes the best response is no response, at least not immediately. Maybe you wait an hour, let the emotion cool, then write a thoughtful reply. Maybe you decide the issue isn't worth the fight at all, or maybe you respond firmly but calmly without letting anger hijack your words. That small act of restraint changes everything. This is the Stoic dichotomy of control applied at the micro level. You can't control the stimulus, the rude email, the unfair critique, the annoying coworker. But you can always control your response. And once you grasp that, you realize no one has the power to make you angry, humiliated, or anxious without your permission. They can provoke, but you decide whether to take the bait. Now, here's an important distinction. Stoicism doesn't mean suppressing emotion or pretending you don't feel it. A Stoic isn't a robot. Anger, fear, sadness, these feelings show up whether you invite them or not. The trick is to acknowledge them without letting them dictate your behavior. Anger can be a signal that something matters. Fear can be a reminder to prepare. Anxiety can be fuel for action. Every emotion, if examined, can become raw material for virtue. Think of it like this. Emotions are the weather. You can't control if it rains, but you can control whether you curse the sky, grab an umbrella, or dance in the downpour. The stimulus is fixed. The response is yours. Practicing this consistently builds a kind of inner freedom that few people ever touch. You stop being a puppet pulled by external strings. Someone insults you, and instead of snapping, you smile or walk away. A plan collapses, and instead of despairing, you calmly shift to plan B. Even when life throws real tragedy your way, you still have that one last freedom to choose your stance. And here's the ripple effect. People notice. They see you staying calm while others lose their heads. They see you measured when others are impulsive. Over time, this earns respect. You become the person people turn to when things go wrong, because they know you won't make it worse with rash reactions. Of course, this is easier said than done. The natural pull is always toward reaction. That's why Stoicism frames it as training. Every email, every interruption, every stressful moment is a chance to practice lengthening that gap between stimulus and response. At first, maybe you only catch yourself after you've already reacted poorly, but with practice, you start catching yourself in the moment. Eventually, you catch yourself before the reaction even starts. That's progress. Frankl survived conditions designed to strip away all human dignity, yet he found freedom in the tiniest space left to him, his ability to choose how he met each moment. If he could find freedom in a concentration camp, what excuse do we have when we let a rude comment or an inconvenient delay ruin our day? So the next time stress shows up, and it will, remember this. You don't control the trigger, but you do control the response. That space is yours, and in that space is your freedom. 6. The view from above. Marcus Aurelius, ruler of the most powerful empire of his time, often practiced a mental exercise that might sound more like science fiction than philosophy. He called it the view from above. The exercise was simple in concept but profound in effect. Imagine zooming out of your own body as though you were rising above your chair, above your home, above your city, until you could see the whole earth beneath you. From this perspective, the armies, politics, wealth, and egos that consumed people's lives shrank into tiny dots. Suddenly, even the big problems of an emperor became small. Now picture doing this yourself. You're at your desk, drowning in emails, deadlines, and noise. Your heart is racing. You feel cornered. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself from above, sitting there hunched at the keyboard. Then zoom further. See the whole building, the block, the city, the country. Keep going until you're looking at Earth from space. Your overflowing inbox? One glowing pixel on a blue and green marble spinning through the void. That project you think is life or death? A flicker in a timeline that stretches billions of years. This isn't nihilism. The Stoics weren't saying nothing matters. What they were saying is, perspective is a superpower. Problems look unbearable when you're zoomed in too close. Zoom out, and you see them for what they really are. Temporary, passing, small. And that shift changes everything. Instead of reacting desperately, you act calmly. Instead of catastrophizing, you take measured steps. The view from above doesn't erase stress, but it dilutes it. It puts each problem back into scale. We do the opposite most of the time. We magnify our issues until they fill the whole screen of our attention. A late client feels like betrayal. A botched presentation feels like career-ending humiliation. A tight deadline feels like the end of the world. The Stoics remind us, these are ripples, not tidal waves. The view from above shrinks them back to size. There's another layer here too. When you zoom out, you don't just see the smallness of your problems. You see the vastness of life around you. The billions of people with their own joys and struggles, the generations that came before and the ones still to come. The birds migrating, the oceans shifting, the stars burning. Your existence becomes part of a larger tapestry. That perspective breeds humility, and humility breeds peace. Think about the last time you were overwhelmed. What if, instead of spiraling, you had paused and zoomed out? Imagine how much energy you would have saved, how much calmer your response would have been. This is why Marcus practiced the exercise so often. Even as emperor, with wars, plagues, and political conspiracies threatening his rule, he reminded himself, all of this is dust in the wind. You don't have to be a philosopher to try it. The next time you feel overwhelmed, take 2 minutes. Close your eyes. Picture yourself as a small dot in a much bigger picture. Your city, your country, your planet. Feel the scale. Let your problem shrink naturally in the vastness. Far from making you apathetic, this perspective often makes you more effective. You stop treating every bump as a crisis. You conserve your energy for what actually matters. You act with steadiness instead of panic. People around you feel that steadiness too. They sense that you're grounded, and they gravitate toward it. Life is short, but it's also vast. The view from above reminds you of both truths. You are tiny, yes, but you are also part of something immense. Your worries are fleeting, but your capacity for calm, for clarity, for action, that's timeless. So, when the inbox floods, when the deadlines pile up, when the world feels crushing, step back, zoom out, see the bigger picture, because from above, almost everything looks small, and that's exactly the point. 7. Amor Fati, love of fate. If there's one Stoic idea that feels almost impossible at first, it's this one, Amor Fati, the love of fate. Not just tolerating what happens, not just enduring it with gritted teeth, but actually loving it. Think about that for a second. It's hard enough to accept setbacks, disappointments, or losses, but the Stoics push further. Can you embrace them? Can you see every twist of fate not as an obstacle, but as material for your growth? When Marcus Aurelius wrote his Meditations, he wasn't lounging in comfort. He was leading Rome through plagues, wars, and political betrayals. And yet again and again, he reminds himself, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. That's Amor Fati in practice. Here's how it works. Something bad happens. Your project fails. Your boss criticizes you unfairly. Your relationship ends. Your company restructures, and your role changes. The usual reaction is resistance. Why me? This isn't fair. I hate this. But Amor Fati asks you to flip the script. Good. Now I learn. Good. Now I adapt. Good. Now I practice patience, resilience, creativity. It's not about pretending pain feels good. It's about choosing to treat every event as fuel. Instead of labeling experiences as good or bad, you see them all as necessary parts of your training. Fate hands you a challenge? Perfect. Now you get to practice strength. Fate hands you a loss? Perfect. Now you get to practice rebuilding. This mindset is rare, but powerful. Most people spend their lives fighting reality, wishing it were different. The Stoic doesn't waste that energy. The Stoic says, this is what is, and since it is, it must be my path. The quicker you align with reality, the freer you are. Let's take a modern example. Say you get passed over for a promotion. The fragile response is bitterness. I deserved it. Life's unfair. The Stoic response is Amor Fati. Good. Now I have a chance to sharpen my skills, to prove myself in other ways, to rethink where I'm headed. Suddenly the setback isn't a wall, it's a doorway. Or imagine something heavier, a major failure. Maybe you launch a business and it collapses. Amor Fati doesn't deny the pain of that, but it reframes the story. Good. Now I know what doesn't work. Good. Now I have first-hand lessons no book could have taught me. Good. Now I get to rebuild stronger. You can almost hear Marcus whispering, what stands in the way becomes the way. This mindset doesn't come overnight. At first it feels forced. Saying good when something bad happens feels fake, but with practice, it becomes second nature. You start catching yourself in the moment. The flight is cancelled. Good. More time to read. The deal falls through. Good. A chance to explore another path. Even in deep suffering, the mindset can help. Grief becomes a chance to honor love. Pain becomes a chance to cultivate patience. And here's the paradox. Once you stop fighting reality, you suffer less. Resistance is what multiplies pain. Acceptance dissolves it. Love transforms it. Nietzsche, centuries after the Stoics, echoed this idea when he said, "My formula for greatness in a human being is Amor Fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity, not merely bear what is necessary, still less conceal it, but love it." Imagine living like that. Nothing wasted, nothing resented. Every event, from triumph to tragedy, folded into the story of your growth. That's freedom. Amor Fati is the hardest Stoic tool to practice, but also the most liberating. Because once you no longer just endure reality, but embrace it, life can throw anything at you, and you'll find a way to use it. That's not resignation. That's power. That's the love of fate. So here's the truth. Work stress isn't going anywhere. The inbox will fill up again tomorrow. Someone will send a snarky email. A project will blow up. A deadline will sneak up on you. The external world is a machine built to test you. But here's what the Stoics figured out, and what we keep forgetting. You don't have to keep letting that machine run your life. You can step off the conveyor belt. Control what's yours. Let go of the rest. Train yourself with discomfort so fear loses its grip. Expect the hard days so they stop blindsiding you. Picture the losses you're most afraid of so you can stop living in terror of them. Stretch out that space between stimulus and response until it's big enough to make a real choice. Zoom out until the biggest problem of the week looks as small as it really is. And then, when fate throws its next curveball, because it will, meet it with something most people never even consider: gratitude. Here's the thing, you're not just surviving when you do this, you're building something rare. You're becoming the person who keeps their head when everyone else is spinning, the one people look to when things get chaotic, the one who doesn't just weather storms, but uses them to grow. And you don't have to master all of this at once. Start small. Pick one tool. Today, not next week. Write down what's in your control and put your energy there. skip one comfort and prove to yourself you don't need it. Take 60 seconds in the morning and expect some friction so it doesn't catch you off guard. Close your eyes tonight and picture losing something you care about, not to make yourself sad, but to sharpen your appreciation that you still have it. Do this every day and watch what happens. Stress stops being this monster waiting to eat you alive. It becomes your training ground. Every email, every crisis, every unexpected hit becomes one more rep, one more chance to practice. That's what the Stoics were really offering us. Not escape, but strength. Not a fantasy of a stress-free life, but the ability to face life as it is and stay unshaken. So tomorrow, when this pressure comes, and it will, pause. Remember, this is the moment you've been training for. This is where you get to choose who you are. And maybe, if you practice long enough, you won't just tolerate the chaos. You'll start to love it. Because every storm will just be more proof that you can stand in the middle of it, calm, clear, and absolutely free.